I wanted to define what decision matrices are and how we can use them in the concept selection process. So I had talked about a methodology where we're going through 2 stages where we're going to use a screening process to get rid of some ideas that we can quickly make some decisions and narrow down to a few concepts. And then we can use a scoring process where we're weighing some factors and looking at a little more detail in order to help us make a better decision out of the concepts that are left. The benefit of doing this is that it's a visual guide using matrices, so you can actually see them and you can see why we chose what we did. So it's a visual guide to help us make consensus in our group, help us show that we have a reason why we made our decision. And we can make sure that since the criteria that we're using are the customer needs that we wrote specs from, that we're basing our decision on our customer needs. So let's take a look at an example of a screening matrix. This is an example here, and we'll just list a couple concepts, but we have concept A, which is our current design, or maybe something we're benchmarking against. We have concept B, C, D, and there could be more than that. I'm just going to rate a few of them on here. And then over here are our list of criteria. Again, I have 3 listed, but you could have more than that, where these are our design goals. So criteria 1 could be like reducing weight, or criteria 2 could be reducing cost, or something like that. So those are our criteria, and we're going to evaluate our concepts against those criteria. So we can go through, and since our current design is our baseline, our benchmark, we're just going to give those 0 values there to indicate that that's kind of the neutral or starting position. And then each of the individual concepts will evaluate based on these criteria that we have listed. Is it the same, about the same? Is it a better design, or maybe it's a worse design? And so you'll use pluses if it's better, and we'll use minuses if it's worse, and 0 if it's about the same. So it's kind of a rough judgment and helping you make some decisions there. After you kind of give those ratings for everything, then we can go through and we can look at, well, okay, we had 3 zeros here, so we put 3 in the sum of the zeros column, and we have 2 pluses and a 0, so we have 2 pluses and 1 0 and 0 minuses, and 1 minus, 1 plus, and 1 0. You can fill all those in, and then you basically add up the score. So this had 3 zeros and nothing else, you had a 0. So we had 2 pluses and a 0 and no minuses, so that's a 2. And then a plus 1, a 0, and a minus 1 will make it 0, and again a 2 positives and 1 negative make it a positive 1. And then we can look at the overall score, and then we can rank them to make sure that we have kind of our best choice here, our second best choice, and then we have a couple of time for third, and how many ever concepts you have, you can rank them all that way to help you narrow down to pick out your best concepts to move on with. So, but maybe we can do another step along the way. Maybe there's some reason why you said, well, I liked that one idea, I kind of eliminated it, but maybe there was something good about it I wanted to include. You know, is there some reason why maybe something got ruled out? Maybe you can consider that. Do these decisions that you've made make sense? Are the criteria good? Maybe you need to re-evaluate your criteria that you're using. And does everyone seem to agree that these are the best ideas in that for that function? And then if there's something that you wanted to keep, maybe you can combine some concepts together in order to come up with a better design and to incorporate 2 different ideas together. So for example, we know the current design, we weren't going to really evaluate that and continue on with that, but concept B was our best design. But maybe there was something about concept C we really liked, so we wanted to keep some part of it. Maybe we can combine it with concept D and come up with a combined overall concept for those 2 together that has the good parts of C in it. And then what we can then go on to is a concept scoring process, which is similar to the screening process, but we're going to go in a little more detail. We're going to use some weighting factors to come up with a better judgment in each of those cases. And we're going to be looking at some more, again, our design goals still, but we're going to include some weighting factors. These will basically be percentages that will hopefully add up. We can break them down so they'll add up to 100%. How you break them down, the team can make a judgment on that. Sometimes you might want some customer input to see which is the most important factors and try to weigh those and separate those relative to each other. Then we're going to use a relative kind of scaling to rate the concepts on a 1 to 5 scale, where 5 is much better than the reference, and 1 would be much worse, and 3 is about the same as the reference design. So it's kind of similar to the screening process, but we're going to be able to look at the effect of criteria that are more important than others in order to help us make that selection process. So let's look at the example here. Concept A was our reference, and we'll include that here. We weren't really going to move on with it, but we're going to include it as our reference. Concept CD, the combination, maybe there were some other concepts such as G that we wanted to include because it was a good idea. Then over here for our criteria that we have, these were our design goals again, that we've broken them down and given them some weighting factors. So the most important one here is criteria 3. We've given that a 30% ranking, and then this one has a 25 and a 20. And if you add these all up, it should have to be 100%. And then we've gone through, and for each design, we've kind of given it an overall ranking to see on a 1 to 5 scale, and if it's better or worse. And in each of those categories here, so each of these design concepts gets a ranking for each of those criteria. Then you can look at trying to add these scores up. So you take the 20%, multiply it by the 3, and you get 0.6. The 10% times 3 gives you 0.3. The 30% times 2 gives you 60.6. 15% times 4 gives you 0.6, and 25% times 1 gives 0.25. Then you add all these up and you get the 2.35. And you do kind of that same thing, the weighting factor times the rating to get the score, and add up the score for each of those concepts. And you can get an overall ranking. So it seems like this combined concept seems to be the best. Concept G wasn't too far behind, so maybe we want to develop both of those concepts a little bit further before we rule one of them out. Maybe we can do some more in-depth analysis to try to help us make that decision, or look at some other criteria that we haven't included here yet. But this is kind of the process that we've used. Hopefully this will help you in your decision-making process, that you can use some of these tools, a scoring matrix and a screening matrix to help you conduct some decision analysis. Again, these matrices can be looked at for the overall design, or you can use it on individual functions of the design to rate the individual design concepts to try to narrow those down. So you can narrow down individual concepts using these scoring or screening processes, and then look at the best concepts and combine them together. Or you could look at different combinations of concepts and then do a similar process on the overall design. So that's how we would use these, and hopefully you find them helpful.